For the first question, the STEM says the pathway shown helps explain two heritable metabolic conditions in humans, PKU and AKU. Phenylketones derive from blah blah blah, melanin blah blah blah, homogenistic acid blah blah blah. So the reason why I'm skipping or skimming through most of this STEM is because there's a lot of information here to take in, and I would recommend just skimming through the STEM first, and then if there's something in the question that you need to go back in the STEM to double check, then you can do that. But I just think that there could be some time wasted if you really try to take in every single word of this STEM. So in the STEM, we also see that there's a pathway there, and the pathway has PKU and AKU, which the STEM says are these two heritable conditions. And we can see that PKU actually blocks phenylalanine from producing tyrosine, and we can see that AKU blocks homogenistic acid from producing the next acid. So the question's asking, suppose a person has neither the enzyme that catalyzes conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine, nor the enzyme that catalyzes conversion of homogenistic acid to the next acid. And we can see that this is pretty much just AKU and PKU, because the first conversion there is PKU and the second one is AKU. And they're saying without treatment, the person would most likely have the signs of what? So let's just look at firstly what happens if someone has PKU. So if someone has PKU, tyrosine is not going to happen. So everything downstream from tyrosine onwards isn't going to happen. Now let's look at AKU. So if someone has AKU, homogenistic acid isn't going to be converted into this next acid. But that's it. That's the only thing in the pathway that's not going to happen. So what does the STEM actually say about the person with the condition that has the enzymes missing? So they say that this conversion is not going to happen and this conversion is not going to happen. But if both of these conversions don't happen, then this is what we're going to have. So it's going to be nothing downstream of phenylalanine is going to be expressed. And this is actually exactly what PKU looks like. AKU, however, we can't tell. We don't know if AKU is blocked because since PKU blocks everything from tyrosine onwards, we have no idea what else is going on there. So for this reason, the answer here is actually B. So the second question here, I would say, first of all, really requires some theory here, specifically Mendelian genetics. And if you're not familiar with it, I'd recommend Khan Academy or something similar on YouTube. So the question's saying, suppose that AKU is caused by a point mutation. Point mutation is not really important here. If you don't really understand it, I'd suggest keep reading. Assume that only those who are homozygous for this mutation display signs and symptoms of disease. Heterozygotes have a normal phenotype. Consider the partial pedigree for AKU inheritance in which the affected individuals are represented by a black square or circle. Which individuals in the pedigree must be heterozygous? Okay, so like I said, you do need some theory or some knowledge of Mendelian genetics here. But just a quick rundown. We both have, we have two alleles for every single gene, right? So every single gene that we have is a combination of what we get from our mum and our dad. Now let's suppose that this is mum and this is dad. So for every gene, let's just say this is a gene for eye color. So your mum has AA. Let's just say your dad has AA as well. So what are these different, why is there an uppercase letter and why is there a lowercase letter? So genuinely we say that uppercase is dominant. So it's just a dominant allele. And genuinely we say that a lowercase is a recessive allele. And genuinely what happens is that it mixes. So let's just say that this is the father and this is the mother. So they both have two alleles each. And we ultimately have two alleles of our own. And these two alleles of our own are a mixture of what our mother and our father has. So we can actually do this little cross here to see what the possibilities are. So, So these are the possibilities here. Half of them could be big A, little a, and half of them could be little a, little a. Anyways, in the context of this question, so homozygous for this condition is two big A's. This means that we ultimately have two big A alleles, and this means that we are homozygous. If someone is heterozygous for the condition, then they have a mixture. They have one big A and one little a. And this is what we got from our parents. So we also have a such thing as a homozygous recessive, but in this case, this means that it's homozygous because the alleles are the same, right? Two little a's. But because they are little a's, they are recessive genes, and that means that we don't actually have any expression of the condition of interest here. So in the context of the question, we see that there are some shapes that are shaded, and shaded means, we can see the actual condition. And as the stem says, this means that they are homozygous, so this means that they have two big A's. Whereas whereas heterozygous means that we actually can't see the condition, but they have one big A and one little a. And the trick here is that they say which individuals must be heterozygous. So we see that the children of 1 and 2, we have one shaded in black, meaning that it's two big A's, and we have another one that's actually shaded in white. So in order for 1 and 2 to have a child shaded in black and a child shaded in white, we know for a fact that 2 must be two big A's. Now, what is 1 going to be? So 1 can't be two big A's, right? It can't be, because if it were two big A's, then it would be shaded in black. However, it could be either heterozygous, big A, little a, or two little a's. Now, if it was two little a's right here, if we do a cross, we can only get big A, little a, which means that we can't have a child shaded in black because we can't get two big A's. However, if the number 1 is a big A and a little a, then if we do a cross here, we can see that we can get both completely dominant or heterozygous, which are the ones that are shaded in white. So from this reasoning, we can see that 1 must be heterozygous, and we can see that the children, or 3, must also be heterozygous. And following this sort of pattern, seeing as 4 and 5 produce a shaded child, we know that 5 must be heterozygous and 6 and 7 must be heterozygous. So now we're kind of in between answer options B and D. So the reason why we're going to choose B here is because 9, we have no idea what the offspring is going to look like. If the offspring are a mixture of shaded in black and no shading, then yes, it would be heterozygous, but we don't know what the offspring is. For all we know, 9 could be just two little a's. So in this case, we don't know for sure if number 9 is heterozygous, so the answer here, once again, is B.